So over the last several weeks, we began this journey, a journey called Advent, in which we move towards Christmas. And on this journey, Father has asked us to be present to our families, and then last week, to be present to the family of God, our church community, and then this week, to be present to the entire surrounding community. And I started to think about, what does that mean, to be present in the community? And I thought about how this time of year, especially from, say, October-ish, as we approach Thanksgiving, all the way through the first of the year, is the biggest, best time for non-for-profit organizations to receive donations and gift and in kind, the biggest time throughout the course of the year. And I thought, well, that's being present. And I thought here we see that. We see that as we had our toy drive, and we saw the mounds of toys that will be distributed through the Knights of Columbus and the women's organization to this community. And then I thought, well, we saw that as we had our food drive, in which we had the evening in which people brought the food to help supply the Kendall County Food Bank, and how wonderful that was to see that turnout of people and the amount of food that was delivered. And I thought how we also saw that, if you remember when the Ukraine was, and when it was still going on, but we brought supplies there and they were delivered to help meet the needs of those people. Then I was reminded of a time of which I worked in a situation where we were put together we had a benefactor who brought about a food truck that could bring supplies to those people in need, and it was for perishable items that needed to be kept cold, like fruits, vegetables, meat, those things. And we had a benefactor who was going to provide this food truck to come once a month. And we just simply made an announcement to the community, and people came, and we distributed food. And it was a wonderful time just to to be in the line with them and to hear their stories and to walk with them and to a little bit during that time and spend some time with them. But it came to be that line not only doubled, but it quadrupled after about 4 months. And what was taking 2 hours for us to distribute now was taking about 4 hours. So in our own minds, we thought we need to make this a faster way, a better way. There's a better way logistically to make this happen. So what we did is we looked and we said, okay, if there's a family of 2, they need this many items. And we put that in a box, and then we said if there's a family of 4, they need double that amount. If there's a family of 6, they need triple, 8, so on and so on. And it got to the point that we had double the amount, quadruple the amount of food coming in, and serving quadruple the amount of people. And it was very streamlined. You didn't even have to get out of your car. Someone approached you and asked you how many people are in your family. They wrote it down. They gave you 4 cards. Each card represented 2 people in the family, or 6 cards, depending on what it was. You pulled up. Someone took the cards off, shouted out to the next person, family of 4 or 4, and 4 boxes came out. They were put in the trunk or in the back seat, and bang, bang, and next one came in line. And it was very smooth. And I remember that first night getting home, and my wife said, wow, you're home really early. I said, yeah, things just worked beautifully. Went to bed, and I didn't really think any more about it. And then about 3 weeks later, I was had the ability to drive to a graveside service with a priest from South Africa. And he was serving in a community that was about 2 hours away. He did not even know the deceased. He knew a distant family member of the deceased, and he came to the funeral. Didn't serve. He just sat and was at the service and then was attending the graveside. Didn't know where he was at in the neighborhood, so he offered to ride with me. And as we're driving, I said, Father, it's really kind of cool that you spent 2 hours of your time, getting out here to this. And he said to me, and he was from South Africa, he said, in this country, people send notes and they send cards. In my country, we send ourselves. I'm present. And that was like something clicked in my mind. And I thought, what are we doing when we're just serving that capacity logistically in that food drive, in that food line like that? Are we really present? Are we present in the way that Christ has called us to be present, to walk the journey? In that very first reading, we hear the repeat in our gospel. The virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel. And see, Ahaz, who was, he was the king of Judah, he didn't follow all of God's predicts. He didn't direct the people always back to God. He wasn't terrible, but Isaiah was put in place to direct him back and to call the people back to a God that loved them and cared for them. Ahaz was given the opportunity to ask for a sign. He says, nah, I don't need one. Keep in mind, he wasn't all in, okay? Isaiah makes this prophecy, okay? And quite probably the people were thinking the next king in the line is going to fulfill that. This is about 700 years before Christ. Hezekiah is Ahaz's son, if you read further, and he is a much more godly king. He does focus more on God and the people individually and serving their needs through a God that cares for them and loves them. But he still doesn't truly fulfill this prophecy. Who fulfills the prophecy is Jesus, Yahshua, which means he saves. And we hear in the repeat in the gospel, when that prophecy is called to mind, what Emmanuel means. God with us. See, the coming of Christ, the coming of Jesus that we're going to celebrate, his incarnation, entering into humanity, the beauty of next week, changes everything. And don't ever think that I'm discounting the giving that people give, whether it's in kind or monetarily. It's important. We need it as a church. All of the organizations that provide help, food, clothing, shelter for those in need, they need it, and that's important. But when we're talking about being present in the name of Christ, as we hear in that second reading from Paul, we mean to really be present. And we encounter that by recognizing what it means that Christ himself, God, chose to enter into humanity. And he didn't come and stand off on the side. Realize that our Lord shared in everything that we share in. He laughed, he cried, he felt pain. This is God, the Creator, that chose to do that. Shared in everything that we share in, exception of our sin. That's what we're called to be as followers of Christ. We're his hands, his feet, his eyes, his heart within the community. How can I do that, though? How can I be that? I can't work 2, 3, 4 hours in a food line or at a soup kitchen. But what I can do is maybe be that smile that is in the grocery store line when I'm picking up those last few things that I forgot for Christmas dinner. Maybe those last gifts that I run out and buy this week. Rather than having my head down and just getting through the day or getting through what I have to do, I can keep my head up and share the joy of Christ that lives within my heart with another. Maybe it's encountering a neighbor that I haven't said hello to other than a wave when I leave in the morning for work and a wave when I come home. And truly asking them how they are and walking and sharing a little bit of that journey with them. Maybe it's in our families. My wife will tell you my favorite spot on Christmas Day after I'm pretty tired, and this is even when the kids were little, because you stay up and you put together. And I was going to put a picture of this up, but I thought, probably not. But it was me in a recliner, taking a kind of a little nap as the kids are all playing and doing that stuff. Was I really present? I was there, but was I present? Was I present in the midst of the journey? And that's what we're called to do as disciples, apostles of Christ, is to be present among those and among each other. So the joy of the Lord that we're going to celebrate, his joy, a God that chose to enter into humanity, can truly be celebrated together, not just on Christmas, but throughout our entire lives as we walk that journey with others and introduce them to a God that loves them, that cares for them, and will walk along that journey with them and be alive in their very hearts. So my prayer for us today, I want to leave you with this. Here's a bad thing. Many of you notice that I wear contacts now, right? Well, here's the adjustment when you wear contacts and you need bifocals. You can only see so far away and you can only see so close up. So I can't read those words there, but I can't read them on here either. So here we go. We're going to paraphrase this. This is from C.S. Lewis. He wrote the Chronicle of, oh, hey, there's a big screen there. I can read that one. Thanks be to God. But next to the Blessed Sacrament itself, your neighbor is the holiest object presented to your senses. Next to the Blessed Sacrament itself, your neighbor is the holiest object presented to your senses. The beauty that we encounter in Jesus Christ here and that we will receive as we represent the sacrifice that he made for us and that we receive his body, his blood, his soul, and divinity is to be taken outside the walls of this church. It's food for our journey so that we can share that beauty with a world that is hurting around us. So here's my prayer, that the Lord opens our hearts and that we are truly present to each other, to our family members, and to this community that we've been set within to serve.